Hello, and welcome to Change the Face of Yoga, teaching toddlers through golden oldies. I'm very excited to be talking to lots of yoga teachers who will explain their passion for teaching yoga to students with different ages, physical fitness levels, wellness levels, and different goals. They will explain the benefits of yoga for these students and will be including teacher tips and pose modifications. I am Stephanie Cunningham of Yoga Lightness, and I've been teaching over 50s for 10 years. So this area is my passion and the passion of many other yoga teachers that you will be listening to in this series. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get started. This is episode 125 of Changing the Face of Yoga. And my guest today is Laura Kupperman. And Laura is a longtime career and business coach, as well as a certified yoga therapist. And she is on the faculty of Inner Peace Yoga Therapy. Through her coaching, she helps yoga, health, and wellness professionals make a bigger impact and grow their income. Laura also runs the popular Yoga Therapy Facebook group. And Laura lives in Boulder, Colorado, where I grew up, where she enjoys just about any outdoor activity. Welcome, Laura. I'm really glad that you were able to come on and to make everything very transparent. Laura was my business coach for a long time. She's really spectacularly good at it.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm really, really happy to be here and talking with you today.
Oh, great. Thanks. Is there anything you want to add to that particular introduction?
Oh, that was just fine. Yeah,
okay.
Thanks.
Laura has agreed to be part of the Yogi Support Month theme, and it is kind of in the businessy arena a bit, but basically it's also just about how you are supporting yourself in life. And the thing I want to talk to Laura about today is, as I said, Laura was my business coach for a while, and then she started the Impact Group, which was kind of a mastermind on Facebook. And it was for yogis and others who wanted some kind of more in-depth discussion and community around making our businesses financially and personally rewarding. However, Laura decided not to go forward with that after about, a year or so, I think, Laura. And I just want to talk about that because I've done that too, where I've, kind of just taken a total different view of things. And how do you come to that point where you think, I think this is not what I should be doing? So if you could start off, Laura, with your own experience about the Impact Circle or anything else, really, I just happen to know about that one.
Sure.
Just to talk people through how you make a change.
Sure. And this is, I'm really glad that this is something you wanted to talk about today, because I don't think we talk about it enough, how we course correct or how we change course completely or even leap onto another path when we've invested a certain amount of our energy and resources, our time, our blood, our sweat, our tears, our money. So let's see. So the Impact Circle, you're right. I had it for about a year, and it was a membership community which I really was excited about. And I put a lot of effort into it. It's still kind of trickling out. So there's still some people in there, but basically there were a few different components. There was a really super supportive, small Facebook community. There was a bunch of online resources that people had access to, and then people could reach out to me by email if they had a business question, and I would respond to them. And I put a lot of energy into thinking this through on the front end, making sure that, the interface looked great and everything was really user-friendly on my website. And I even experimented with not having the community group in Facebook, with using a different platform. And I played around with it, and I got some beta testers in there. You may have been one of those early beta testers, I think, too, Steph. So I put a lot of energy into this. And it was really interesting because I was super excited about it. But by the time I launched, I almost felt like I had some fatigue because that pre-launch phase was significant. And so, that's one thing for people who are listening to kind of think about. So many of us, when we put something out into the world, want it to be perfect. We want it to be of the highest quality. And sometimes that's merited and it's justified. And you really want everything to reflect really highly. You want it to be of a certain quality. And so you wait until you feel like it's perfected. But more often, it makes more sense to put it out there before you're comfortable, before you feel like it's perfected, so that you can start to get feedback. And I did go ahead and get some beta testers in there to get feedback on it. However, I should have put it out even sooner. Yeah. So I think we kind of need, if you're thinking of putting out an online course, a program, you need to imagine like you're a software company where you're going to be putting it out there with some bugs. And you just know that, on the fly, you will adapt and you'll upgrade and you'll refine. So that was the first part. Like by the time I got to the starting line, it felt like it had been a year. It wasn't quite that long, but it was a long time sort of germinating in my head. It was a long time trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I had been putting out so much energy without getting anything in return. And I don't even just mean financially, but the reward of seeing the people in the group benefiting from it. Mm-hmm. I was kind of working in isolation. So that was one piece of it. And the other piece that goes along with that is, with this whole perfection thing, is like, what is the price point going to be? If someone is spending $10,000 on something, you do want the quality to be insanely high, right? Like if someone is buying something that's a really big investment, you want it to be an amazing experience for them. The Impact Circle wasn't that thing in terms of the price point. The price point, depending on whether or not you were doing a 6-month membership or a year-long membership, like the most someone would have paid was between $450 and $500. So,
and that would have been for a full year.
For a full year, right?
Okay.
Yep. And so, in order for me to justify the amount of energy and work I was putting into it, I probably should have charged more. So that was all the front loading that I did. And then the group started, and the group was really lovely. I mean, there were super supportive people in the Facebook group. There were people reaching out to me with business questions by email, which is what I had envisioned. But at a certain point, I came to this huge realization, which was people were not getting the type of results and benefits that I wanted. Uh-huh. And they may have gotten the type of results and benefits that they wanted. And so this was a really interesting conundrum, because it's like, what if you're doing some good in the world, but you have a bigger vision for yourself or a different scope or level of impact that you want to be making? And while there were people, who were engaged and who were benefiting, I think, especially from the one-on-one email coaching conversations, I wanted to see people making huge leaps in their business. I know, because I do work with people one-on-one, I know that when I work with someone one-on-one, that's the kind of experience someone typically gets. And people just weren't getting it in this structure. Partly, I think it's because they weren't as invested. My one-on-one coaching is definitely a higher price point. And if you're paying, a couple $100s for something, your level of commitment is not the same as if you're paying thousands of dollars for something.
Correct.
And that's related to everyone who's listening. I hope people remember that as they evaluate how much they're charging for something. If you're not charging enough, people aren't going to be as committed. I think many of us have this, soft spot in our hearts, like, I want to serve everybody, so therefore I should make the price low so it's accessible to everybody. And then what you get are people who are totally fine missing a session with you or missing a group class or never even watching your online program because there's no pain associated with not participating. They lost $100, not $1,000 or $10,000, right?
Yep.
So that was the other piece of it for me, was that people I know from experience, I can help people transform their business, have a different relationship with it, reach people more deeply, refine their business model, all these things that people weren't, even though there was great camaraderie, and people, I think, were grateful for the support I could give them, it just wasn't going to happen in this structure. So, those were, I think, the two big factors that ultimately made this less of an appealing offering for me. I already felt a little drained by the time I started, and then I wasn't getting the kind of upside I needed in terms of the impact I wanted to make. And in terms of the, financial gain for me, and one of my business mentors said, he's like, you really need like 500 people in a membership site. Wow. That's sort of your minimum that you want to shoot for. And I think I don't even remember, 50 something. And so it was a very sweet group of people in there. Everyone in there was just phenomenal, really sort of lovely, high caliber, bright, engaged, supportive person. But it wasn't doing what I had imagined in my mind, and I wasn't prepared to do what it would take to get 500 people in there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
And that's a lot to manage. I mean, really, just,
yes.
That's a huge undertaking. Well, I thought I would just add my own experience. I was a yoga teacher I suppose I still am a yoga teacher, but I'm not teaching. A yoga teacher for about 10 years. And I was in the over 50s arena. And although I love yoga and I loved working with the students, I never felt very good at it. And I'm probably an okay, yoga teacher. I'm not horrid, and I'm very well trained in safety and that kind of thing for that age group. And I did the thing where I had an online course and So I went the whole thing, but I never, ever felt personally successful. And this is probably when I came to Laura and talked about needing a business coach. I don't think that she really knew she was supposed to make me feel successful, but and she just on an offhand, I'd been with her, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 months. And all of a sudden she said, well, why don't you do a podcast? Because what you want is more people to know about you. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And so I did. And I just got this tremendous, in comparison to my yoga classes, response to what I was trying to do. And that's when I knew that given my kind of background and outlook on life, I need to be working kind of on a more general basis instead of a very specific basis with individual students. And I miss my students, I really do. I still am in contact with some of them, but I can't tell you how much the podcast is different to me and how I feel about it. And that's why I changed it, because quite frankly, the finances are not on the side of the podcast. I made a lot more money teaching. And so I know that other people don't have that opportunity, but I can do that because I have other sources of income. But I just wanted to say, sometimes even if you really love what you think you should be doing, but it just simply isn't giving you what you need, that's maybe another reason to change.
I love that you brought that up. And it's funny because right before we spoke, I was working on some copy for an email I'm sending out. And I was using this metaphor about how when our business model doesn't suit us anymore, it's like wearing a pair of shoes that are a size too small. And they might be gorgeous shoes, and maybe you paid a lot of money for those shoes, so you feel very invested. Like, no, I couldn't possibly, like get rid of them. But ultimately, it feels like we're forcing it. And then eventually, like it can literally cause pain and distress. Minimally, we start to feel a little burnt out, or we're not as enthusiastic about meeting our clients, or whatever the endeavor is. And it can even, lead to, depending on how deep you are into this, like it can lead to physical dis-ease or illness. And what is so lovely about the courage that you showed in making a really big course correction with your business, Stephanie, is that faith that like the well is infinite. It's not like we live in a world where we are allocated a really small amount of resources and we have to hold on to them for dear life because we fear that, if we don't hold on to this opportunity, there will never be more opportunities for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's subconsciously where some of us can come from. I know I have certainly been in that place where you feel like I've worked so hard to, whatever it might be, get this teacher training up and running, get this course up and running at the hospital. I'm being really well compensated, for doing certain endeavors. And we all need to have faith that if something doesn't suit us anymore, if it's like the shoes we have outgrown, then, we need to just trust in our own capacity and skills and know that there's going to be more opportunities, that the opportunities we're letting go of, there's probably someone much better suited in our community or in the world who will pick up the mantle. And that we will find a whole new way to serve, to be happy, to prosper, if we really just trust that there's more available for us out there.
Yeah, I think that's important because it's scary, I think, to change. I mean, to say, I did this for 10 years. I can't tell you the money I've spent on training to do it. But it just wasn't right for me. I think that so many of us love yoga for what it does for ourselves and what we've seen in other people. I'm not sure that we all should go into the yoga teaching, yoga therapy road, that there may be other ways that you can serve the yoga community. And I feel that I am serving a niche of the yoga community in a way. And so I don't know, it seems like we just kind of follow the crowd and maybe you just aren't you in the generic, not you, Laura. Maybe you just need to think about what am I like? What do I love? How can I take my skills, my passion, my purpose into this arena? And what is the best way for me? To be a little creative about that, I think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, there are enough people in the world, teaching the 5:30 Power Vinyasa class
Yes.
at the most popular studio in town. And I no longer teach group classes and feel like, my focus within the world of yoga therapy is yoga for people who've been diagnosed with cancer. And, after I had trained a certain number of people, I felt like, great, they can teach those classes
Yeah.
in my community or in other cities. And really what I noticed, because part of my teacher training, there was a business mentoring component. So people wouldn't just learn how to safely work with people who had cancer, but they knew how to, go talk to the people at their cancer center and get a class started. They knew how to market the class. And what I realized was, this is what people need even more than the yoga skills is the business skills. And I had already been coaching for so long, but I just decided, I am just going to go all in with helping other health and wellness professionals with their business and narrow down the scope of my coaching practice. A lot of times we might feel like when we narrow down, we're going to be closing off opportunities or shutting down that, funnel of potential income. And I think if you, follow your heart, like what you were saying, and get focused, usually the opposite is true. We get more opportunities and we're so much happier.
Yes. I think that's important too.
It is the most important. It is, life is, I've changed my tune on this too over the years. Like, life is too short to finish reading a book you don't love. So
Yes.
there's like two kinds of people in the world: those who finish the book they started no matter what.
I used to be one of those.
Me too. And in fact, like, there'll be people out there who will not agree with what I'm saying. But my husband and I went to go see the movie, I think it was called Captain Marvel, the one with Brie Larson, that had gotten great reviews and so many people were raving about. And, we have some younger nieces who live in Boulder and they were raving about it. We went to see this movie and literally 10 minutes in, we both looked at each other. Like, do you want to leave now? Because life, like, this isn't a dress rehearsal. We all know this, but like, our life is now, your business is now. If you're not feeling it anymore, it is a relief to shed whatever's no longer serving you and bringing you joy.
Yeah. I was very torn about not teaching anymore, but there was such a tremendous relief because I felt like such a failure. I didn't feel successful doing it. And it was just a relief not to put that mantle on me, shall we say, any longer. And to then go to the podcast and have people saying, oh, this, I really love talking, hearing about this, and it made me feel connected and all kinds of really, really positive things. And I thought, whoa, this is where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love that. And it's, also, it can become a big part of our identity. Sometimes it is. I've had coaching clients who really have spent years ruminating over, should I give up, this particular class, or should I stop working with this particular student or let go of this opportunity, because there's such a heart connection with our students.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's totally like a real reason why we might drag our feet. And it also can be a really big part of our identity. I know for me, for a really long time here in Boulder, I was the yoga for cancer person. I also specialize in yoga for fertility enhancement, and just got and had a really great partnership with our local-ish fertility center, which is like an offshoot of a huge fertility center in Denver and south of Denver. That's really the number one fertility center in the country, if not the world. And that can be kind of an ego boost, not necessarily in a positive way, but like all these people contacting you and seeking you out, and you're helping them, and it becomes a part of your identity that's hard to let go of. It feels like, oh, I belong. People trust me. They come to me as a reliable resource. There might be other things that I'm not too proud to say, like, oh, people like me, like something like that seems really silly, but can be just below the surface of like, okay, who would I be if I wasn't doing this anymore? Which can be heavy sometimes. And it can take us. Yeah. Right. Like it can take you months to make peace with that. Like, who am I if I'm not doing my yoga for seniors training anymore? And who you are is this amazing podcast.
I think I was lucky that way because I was doing both. And it was a very stark comparison about, and I'm not saying that my students didn't say, gee, thanks, that was a great class, I really loved it. They were saying that, but it was inside me not thinking that I was doing a good job. And actually, you know what? I wasn't because with all of my podcasts and people talking about what they do, I realized that I had some serious deficits looking back on my teaching. And so I was right to think I wasn't successful. And I'm probably not as successful at podcasting as I think I am, but it certainly is more satisfying to me to do that. And I think maybe that's the key. Are you really satisfied with it? And if you're not, what do you do with that?
Yes. And that's, something I always encourage my coaching clients to have. And maybe we even did this when we worked together. Like, what is your litmus test for saying yes to an opportunity? And, satisfaction is that's like an intuitive feeling. Like, yes, I know I'm totally satisfied, but sometimes when you're evaluating opportunities in advance, you're not sure if you'll be satisfied. And we each have to know, like, is there an opportunity here for me to, whatever it might be, to learn something, to have fun, to make some good connections, to make some good money, whatever those things are for you, to just know what they are. And a lot of times I think people will be shocked, once they have this litmus test in place, if you go back and review some of the things you've said yes to that you wish you had said no to, like, it'll be so clear, like, oh my gosh, why in the world would I have said yes to that? That was such a clear no. Or why did I hang on to it for so long? It was such a clear no.
Yeah. Yeah. I think really the purpose of this podcast is to say it's okay to change.
Yes.
It's definitely not, it is scary. It is hard. I can't tell you how the technology has defeated me on many occasions. But if there's just a basic unease there, for whatever reason, I think that needs to be kind of delved into.
I agree. Absolutely. And if you resist that, that needs to be delved into. That when we resist that, my experience is that a lot of times it is coming from a place of scarcity. Like, I can't even entertain the possibility of making a change because, I have something now. And if I let go of this, I might have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you wanted to talk about this stuff. I hope it gives people, that sense of permission, or at least permission to explore and evaluate, if they're satisfied, if they're happy, and are they making the best contribution, the contribution they want to be making, whatever that means to them. And if not, to just really trust that there's someone else out there to pick up the mantle and make that contribution while you step into the next chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not going to, I'd like to say it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. Anything new is hard because you don't know the rules yet. You don't know where your boundaries are or something. But I think though that it is important. And I think some ways the yoga industry, not the individual yoga person, but the yoga industry is very much about churning out lots and lots of yoga teachers and having them all do pretty much the same thing. And that might be fine. That might be something you really love and that you think is really is what you want to do.
Thank you for that wonderful interview. If you would like to be a guest on Changing the Face of Yoga, please go to my website, www.yogalightness.com.au, and under the Changing the Face of Yoga tab, you can complete Be Our Guest form. After reviewing the form and finding it applicable to this podcast, we will send you a link to schedule an interview. Please download, review, and tell your friends of any podcasts that are of interest to you and to them. If you would like to contact me, send an email to info@yogalightness.com.au. And thank you for listening to Changing the Face of Yoga.